All right, let's dive into something everyone's buzzing about these days, carbon markets.
Yeah.
And more specifically, can they really help the least developed countries?
Right.
Those are those LDCs,
Yeah.
the countries that contribute the least to climate change,
Yeah.
but often get hit the hardest.
Absolutely.
We've got a whole stack of
Yeah.
reports and articles here.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
And trust me, some surprising stuff in here.
Yeah, I bet.
So before we jump into the nitty-gritty,
Okay.
can you give us just a super quick
Just
overview of what carbon markets actually are?
Okay. Imagine a world where
Okay.
reducing your carbon footprints, like buying groceries.
Right.
That's kind of the idea behind carbon markets.
Cool.
You've got countries, they want to lower emissions, right?
Yeah.
And they can buy carbon credits from projects that are
Yeah.
removing or reducing greenhouse gases.
Okay.
Those projects could be anything from protecting forests to investing in renewable energy
Oh,
in developing countries.
so it's kind of like this global trading system
Yeah.
for pollution reduction,
That's a good way to put it.
but with trees and solar panels
Exactly.
instead of stocks and bonds.
Yeah. Yeah, more tangible, I guess.
But there are two main types, right,
You got it.
of carbon markets.
There's the compliance market where companies or countries, they have to reduce emissions.
Oh,
So they buy and sell credits to meet those obligations, like cap and trade systems.
Right.
Then there's the voluntary one,
Okay.
where they do it even if they're not legally required to.
Right. So it's all about
Yeah.
good intentions and greenwashing.
That's where it gets a little tricky.
But let's stay focused here.
Right.
Our mission today is to figure out if these carbon markets,
Okay.
especially those voluntary ones,
Right.
are a true lifeline for LDCs
Mm-hmm.
or just another empty promise.
A lot of debate about that.
And one of the most,
Yeah.
eye-opening reports
Yeah.
we've got is this UNCTAD one.
Right.
It really digs into the numbers,
Yeah.
and it's not exactly a rosy picture.
It highlights some tough realities.
Yeah, one of the biggest things
Yeah.
that jumped out at me
Yeah.
was that the total market value of carbon credits from LDCs
Yeah.
in 2023
Right.
was it 403 million?
$403 million. Yeah.
That's
minuscule.
that's tiny.
Yeah.
And the report puts that into perspective
It does.
by comparing it to the aid, right,
Yes, it
the
does.
LDCs receive.
It represents about 1% of the total aid they get.
So even if everything was working perfectly,
Right.
it would still be like a drop of the
A
bucket
drop in the bucket. Yeah.
compared to their needs.
Compared to what they need. Yeah.
So if carbon credits are such a small slice,
Mm-hmm.
why are we even talking about them?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Is there any potential here for LDCs?
To understand the potential
Yeah.
and the risks, I think we have to look back
Okay.
at the history of carbon markets.
Okay.
Specifically, this thing called the Clean Development Mechanism,
The CDM.
or CDM, yeah.
I've heard of that.
It was part of the Kyoto Protocol,
Okay.
which was an earlier climate agreement.
Right.
Basically, developed countries could invest
Okay.
in emission reduction projects in developing countries
Okay.
to offset their own emissions.
It sounds good, but
It's supposed to be a win-win.
I have a feeling it didn't quite work out that way,
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
based on what I'm seeing in this report.
Yeah, the CDM, while it had some wins,
Okay.
it didn't deliver on those promises.
Why is that?
I mean, LDC participation was limited.
Mm-hmm.
Only a handful of projects were registered.
Why? Was there just a lack of interest from developed countries?
Well, there were a few factors.
Okay.
High costs
Right.
were a huge barrier for LDCs.
Yeah.
The short commitment periods.
Okay.
Under Kyoto, there just wasn't a strong incentive for long-term investment.
Right.
And then there was the carbon panic of 2012, when prices crashed.
Oh, wow.
Imagine investing in a whole system and then the bottom falls out.
No wonder it didn't take off.
Makes you hesitant.
This was all before the Paris Agreement, though.
Right.
Right? And that's got Article 6,
Exactly.
which is supposed to be the new and improved framework
The new and improved, yeah.
for carbon markets.
Yeah.
Does that change the game for LDCs?
Well, that is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Article 6 is a lot more ambitious
Okay.
and complex than the CDM.
Okay.
It has two main approaches.
Okay.
Countries trading emissions reductions directly
Right.
and a centralized UN thing overseeing the crediting process.
Okay, now this is where my head starts to spin a little bit.
Yeah.
Are LDCs even equipped to navigate this?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Article 6 demands a lot from participating countries.
Yeah.
Robust institutions,
Mhm.
monitoring systems.
Yep.
capacity to engage in complex international negotiations.
And a lot of them are already struggling.
A lot of them are already stretched thin.
Yeah, just to meet basic needs.
Just trying to meet basic development needs.
So it's kind of like asking them to run a marathon.
A good analogy.
When they haven't even had a chance to stretch.
They haven't even stretched, yeah.
But this report also mentions this voluntary carbon market.
Right.
Is that separate?
Yes, the voluntary market is separate from the Paris Agreement framework.
Okay.
It's basically a free-for-all.
Oh.
Where companies or individuals can buy carbon credits to offset emissions.
Even if they're not required to?
Even if they're not required to, yeah.
So like the Wild West?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Of carbon trading?
Yeah.
But with maybe good intentions?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's growing super fast.
Yeah.
Which is both exciting and concerning.
Right, because the potential's there.
Yeah.
But there are also questions about...
Big questions about transparency, yeah.
Transparency and the quality
of
the credits.
For the credits, yeah.
So it's back to that greenwashing.
Back to greenwashing.
Let's give our listeners a minute to digest all this.
That's a good idea, yeah.
We've covered a lot.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Basics of carbon markets.
The basics, yeah.
The whole CDM thing.
The mixed legacy of the CDM.
Yeah, and the Article 6.
And the complexities of Article 6.
And, of course, the challenges facing LDCs.
The vast potential and the very real challenge facing LDCs in this space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Welcome back to our deep dive into carbon markets and LDCs.
As we dig deeper into all this, I can't help but wonder if there's a way for LDCs to kind of use their natural resources to get a stronger foothold in these carbon markets.
You're thinking along the right lines.
Okay.
This UNCTAD report specifically points out this untapped potential of land-based mitigation in LDCs.
So harnessing nature.
Harnessing nature.
To fight climate change.
To fight climate change.
Forests, they absorb a ton of CO2.
Incredible carbon sinks.
Right.
Yeah.
And sustainable agriculture can also help reduce emissions.
Absolutely.
So LDCs could potentially generate carbon credits by protecting their forests.
Protecting forests.
And promoting sustainable farming.
Sustainable farming, exactly.
They have a win-win.
Win-win-win. Really protecting biodiversity.
Supporting local communities.
Supporting local community.
And generating income.
And generating income.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
Almost too good to be true, right?
But the report also says that the current volume of credits issued in LDCs is only a fraction of what it could be.
A fraction of the potential.
What's going on there?
Why is that?
There are a couple of key bottlenecks.
Okay.
First, project feasibility.
Okay.
Developing and implementing these kinds of projects can be complex and costly.
Right.
Especially in countries.
Yeah. With limited resources and infrastructure.
So it's not just about like planting trees.
It's not just about planting trees.
And calling it a day.
No.
There's more to it.
Careful planning. Community involvement. Long-term monitoring. You got to make sure these projects are really sustainable.
Yeah.
And deliver those emission reductions.
And then there's that issue.
And then there's the issue
of those low carbon prices.
Those low carbon prices.
If the price is too low, it might not even be worth it.
Not even worth the effort.
For LDCs to even get involved.
Right. It bother.
Yeah, it's like trying to sell a masterpiece at a flea market.
Exactly.
It underscores the need for a multi-pronged approach.
I think so.
Carbon markets can be part of it.
Part of the solution.
But they need other things.
They need to be complemented,
like technology transfer.
Absolutely.
Capacity building.
Financial support. Financial support from developed countries,
So it's about creating an environment where these projects can succeed.
Creating an enabling environment. I like that.
Not just throwing them out there.
Not just throwing them out there.
And hoping for the best. But let's talk about Article 6 of the Paris Agreement.
Yeah, Article 6.
We talked about it earlier.
Touched on it.
It's supposed to be the next big thing in carbon markets.
It's being touted as that.
But I'm still a little fuzzy on how it actually works.
Article 6 is a complex beast.
Yeah.
But I'll try to break it down.
Okay.
Imagine like a global framework that lets countries cooperate on climate action and trade emissions reductions with each other. Cool. It's like a giant accounting system where countries can balance their climate books.
By investing.
By investing in projects abroad or trading emissions allowances.
Okay, that makes it a little clearer.
It's a little clearer.
But this report suggests that Article 6 could be a double-edged sword.
It could be.
For LDCs.
There are some concerns.
What are those concerns?
Well, one of the main ones
Yeah.
is that Article 6 could create a system where developed countries with more resources and expertise dominate the market.
Okay.
And LDCs are
struggling to keep up.
So
it's like setting up a race.
Yeah, good analogy.
Where some runners get a head start. And others are still tying their shoes. Not exactly fair.
Not a fair competition.
So we need to make sure it's implemented fairly. Equitably.
Yeah, and upholding that principle.
Yeah.
Of common but differentiated responsibilities.
Because LDCs have contributed the least.
They have contributed the least.
But they're the most vulnerable.
They're the most vulnerable.
To
the impacts of climate change, yeah.
They need support.
Absolutely.
To participate effectively. Beyond the equity issue.
Yeah.
This report also points out the complexity of Article 6.
The sheer complexity.
It can be daunting.
Daunting for sure.
Even for countries with established institutions.
Yeah, well-established institutions.
Expertise for LDCs.
Yeah.
Navigating this complexity can be a major hurdle.
It's
like giving someone a map.
A treasure map.
To a hidden treasure.
A treasure map to a hidden treasure.
But the map is in a language they don't understand.
Oh, I like that analogy.
And it's full of booby traps. That's why capacity building is so important.
Capacity building is crucial, yeah.
Developed countries need to step up.
They need to step up.
And provide assistance.
Technical and financial assistance, yeah.
So LDCs can understand the rules.
Understand the rules of the game.
Develop monitoring systems. Develop robust monitoring systems.
And participate.
Participate effectively.
So it's about leveling the playing field.
And
empowering LDCs.
Empowering them to be active players.
Not just passive recipients.
Yeah.
But beyond all this, the technicalities and the complexity, we need to remember the human element.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. Carbon markets.
Yeah.
They're not just about numbers. Transactions.
They're about people.
About communities.
Communities on the front lines.
Of climate change. Yeah. It's about creating a more just...
Sustainable
future.
For everyone. And that brings us to another point. From the report.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
To
focus on the money.
Yeah.
And the emissions reductions.
Just the abstract.
Yeah. We need to make sure.
That
the benefits reach the people who need them most.
Those people who need them most.
We need to move beyond the carbon credits.
Beyond the abstract notion of carbon credits.
Yeah.
I like that.
And think about how these markets can improve people's lives.
Yeah.
Create jobs.
Support
local economies.
Improve
access to energy.
Access to clean energy.
Yeah. Enhance resilience.
Enhance community resilience.
To climate change.
Connecting the dots.
Between global markets and local reality. I'm starting to feel a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Are there any reasons to be optimistic?
About the role of carbon markets in LDCs.
Yeah.
There are some bright spots. Some signs that things are moving in the right direction.
What are those?
I think there's a lot of innovation happening. And that's where the potential for LDCs is. The report highlights these regional carbon market mechanisms.
So a group of countries.
A group of neighboring countries.
Working together.
Joining forces to create a shared market.
Like a carbon-conscious alliance.
Yeah, like a carbon-conscious alliance.
Pooling resources.
Pool their resources.
Expertise.
Strength in numbers,
exactly.
Could that be a game changer?
I think a regional approach could be huge for LDCs.
In what way?
It could help reduce those transaction costs. Streamline all those complex monitoring processes. And it could boost their bargaining power.
So it makes them more competitive.
More competitive on the international stage.
Yeah.
Levels the playing field a bit.
Are there any examples of this happening? Yeah, there are some promising initiatives.
Correct.
The report talks about West African countries collaborating on a regional market. Similar efforts are popping up around the world.
So it's still early.
It's early days.
But it could be really promising.
Yeah, these regional partnerships could be key.
What about technology?
Oh, Oh, technology is huge here.
We live in an age of incredible advances.
Incredible technological advances, yeah.
Surely there are ways to use tech
to
make carbon markets more transparent, more accessible.
I think so.
More impactful.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like what?
Well, think about blockchain.
Okay.
Its ability to create secure and transparent records could revolutionize how carbon credits are tracked and traded.
So like giving each credit
a unique digital fingerprint.
A digital fingerprint.
Eliminates fraud and double counting.
Okay, so a tamper-proof ledger.
Tamper-proof ledger for the carbon market.
More transparency.
Transparency could boost confidence.
Right.
Attract investors. Drive more funding towards projects that are actually making a difference.
And
then there's this growing interest in results-based climate finance.
Results-based?
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
It is. It's a cool concept.
What is that?
So instead of giving money up front for these mitigation projects, payments are made only after the emission reductions are achieved.
So like paying a contractor?
Yeah, like paying a contractor.
After they finish the job?
After they finish the job, not before.
Before they even start?
Right, exactly.
So it's all about rewarding outcomes.
Rewarding tangible outcomes, not just good intentions.
I like that.
Minimizes the financial risk for investors. Incentivizes developers to deliver.
It seems like it would align really well.
It aligns perfectly
with that need for transparency.
Transparency and accountability, yeah.
Sounds like a win-win.
A win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially for LDCs.
Yeah.
Who often have trouble accessing funding.
But with all these innovations, how do we ensure that the benefits actually reach the local communities?
That's the million-dollar question. Yeah. I think that's where community-based carbon projects come in.
What are those?
These projects empower local communities to take ownership of their natural resources, manage forests sustainably, adopt climate-smart agriculture practices, and generate those carbon credits that can directly benefit them.
So putting the power
back in the hands of the people.
In the hands of the people, yeah.
Most affected by climate change.
Yeah.
It can create jobs. Improve food security, protect biodiversity, and enhance their resilience
to climate change.
To the impacts of climate change,
That's really inspiring.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept.
And we hope that we can find solutions that are environmentally sound. But also socially just.
And socially just. It's about recognizing that climate action and sustainable development
go hand in hand. Absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From challenges.
Complexities
of carbon markets.
Innovative approaches.
Yeah.
Glimmers of hope.
Yeah.
And why it matters.
Not
just for LDCs.
But
for the whole planet.
Yeah.
The choices we make.
Today.
Have consequences.
Big consequences.
For future generations.
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
Carbon markets are just one piece.
One piece of the puzzle.
They're not a silver bullet. But they can be a powerful tool.
They can be.
If we use them strategically. With transparency.
And a commitment to equity.
And that change starts with each of us.
It does.
We all have a role to play.
In
creating a more sustainable and just world.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep questioning.
Keep pushing for a better future.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive